Hello, my name's Ian MacKendrick. I'm founder of Paladin Financial Experts, and I am a financial expert with MLAS, who provide me with brilliant back office support. My career initially, when I was growing up, was looking like becoming a professional footballer. I was with Nottingham Forest during the time of Brian Clough. But sadly, as is the case with many people trying to become professional sports people, I didn't quite make that. And the only other thing that I was good at, I realise now because I'm autistic, was numbers. And so therefore it was I wouldn't say an easy, but it was a relatively straightforward decision to enter the world of finance and numbers, because that was something that came easily to me. What I hadn't expected was quite how rapidly I would progress through my career. So, well, initially, after doing all of my exams in evenings and weekends whilst I worked in the day, I ended up in my 20s running an investment house and floating companies onto the stock exchange, raising millions of pounds for them, and then sort of supporting them whilst they were on the stock market. And something inside just didn't sit right with me. I didn't like the way I was earning money. I'm sure that would have been a route to a large sum of money, but that didn't seem to motivate me. So what I did is I made a decision to become an ethical and transparent and very trustworthy sort of beacon, if you like, for the financial industry. And so I cut the years out of finance. I lived all around the world. I did 40 days silence. I lived with tribes in the jungle, all sorts of weird and wonderful sort of self-discovery things to mold myself into where I am today, so that I could provide support to the most vulnerable people in our society with their finances, both as a financial expert for the courts and as an independent financial advisor for very vulnerable people. And I love it. So I think being disabled myself, that has really helped me to empathise and to understand most of my clients, because the way that I have to structure my own life is actually very similar to how somebody with a brain injury, for example, has to structure their life. They need, routine and things to be done a certain way, and there's certain tips and techniques that can really help you flourish. And so I love passing that sort of information on. I'm a dementia friend. I trained for several years to become a counsellor, and I did a master's in neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, so lots of different things like these. So these, I would say, were to develop the softer side of the skill set that then sits alongside my financial expertise, so that I can really treat a person as a whole and not just see them as a number on a bit of paper and getting that done and on to the next one. So it's much, much more important than that to me. And subsequently, I'm also setting up a charity to support people of that nature in the workplace, for example, to help other people thrive. Well, a typical day is I always ensure that I've walked my dog and done my exercise. After I've done that and I'm ready for my day, it really depends, because there's different sides of Paladin Financial Experts. Where I'm acting as the expert myself, then I'm dealing with new inquiries, or I'm preparing reports, preparing joint statements, or making commentary on defendant or claimant reports, depending on who I'm instructed by. These are normally to tight deadlines, and so we can never miss a deadline, so you just work until the job is done. In addition to that, what seems to have happened as well is, because of the reputation we have, we're attracting other experts that are working through Paladin Financial Experts, whether that be with pensions in divorce, it might be with expert police and drug work, looking at IT, welfare benefits. All sorts of experts are looking at taking advantage of the reputation and are of sufficient quality where we can also look at those ancillary services as well. So quite a lot of time is spent looking at that side of the business, making sure the structure and the support is in place for them as well, and providing oversight to what they're doing. The initial inspiration was more claimant focused, if I'm honest. It was about noticing that a lot of litigation cases were undersettling claims because the financial side of the claims hadn't been done properly. This was something that was quite frustrating, because they didn't feel like a sense of justice. And so my early days were sort of really that was my main motivation. After doing it for a couple of years, you realise that actually that's true of both sides, because sometimes a claimant might be trying to over-egg the pudding, and the defendants need a balanced, reasonable expert to make sure that they're picking up on the points that are perhaps exaggerating the value of a claim. And that has equal value and equal weight, because there's two sides to the story. So really, I suppose it's that feeling of fairness, of transparency. And I like to think that 100% of the time, I will always be doing what's right for the court and the person, and not myself or, the instructing party. Well, pensions are notoriously exciting. So I'm not sure exciting would be a word used by many, if any. I perceive it slightly different in the sense, going back to my previous point, the exciting point is really getting stuck into the great detail and complexity. I love unraveling. It's like a mystery. So I feel like a detective. I've got to unravel what's happened and what's likely to happen, how it might pan out, and providing different solutions so people can arrive at a reasonable outcome, and sort of reading into people's lives. And quite often, despite these life-changing situations, more often than not, there's a human story of triumph that eventually comes through once cases have settled. So I would say there's many exciting aspects, but the actual content of pensions, whilst not an overly exciting topic, the outcome for the claimant or defendant should be exciting, because it needs to be accurate and it's life-changing. I would say the main thing about being an expert is having that vast life experience of having dealt with your subject for a very long period of time. We're seeing some experts come into business that maybe have only recently qualified, and they may be exceptionally intelligent and sophisticated, but sometimes it's just a case of having a bit of experience on your side, because then you've been through the various changes in regulation and outcomes of the markets, and you've advised several hundred, if not thousands, of people on what to do with their pensions and their money. And so just having that real world experience is very helpful. Once that's in place, accuracy is vital, honesty is vital. You need to be able to be confident enough in your opinion to push back if you've got instructing parties that may want the information presented in a certain way, but it needs to be done, you need to be unshakable, really, in how you approach that. So you have to be accountable, because you're going to be the one in the box that sort of either standing up for or defending against the other position. Just because you're up against an opponent, you can still be nice, you can still be kind, you can still be friendly, and you don't need to score points or undermine anyone to arrive at the correct outcome. So I know my strengths and also know my weaknesses. So when it comes to writing reports, MLAS are brilliant and provide all of my back office support in terms of the standard wording that goes in, and taking what's in my mind and being able to document that in a way that's understandable to the layperson, whether that be a solicitor, a barrister, or the claimant or insurer. So I would say the main strength is really knowing where my weaknesses are and focusing what I'm good at, which is provision of the expert work, overseeing other experts, and using my, sort of autistic mind to the best of its ability in unraveling these complex financial situations, and doing my best to put them away that's understandable and legible for the courts to make a balanced decision. Well, where do I start? So my main sort of reason for being is to be the best dad that I can possibly be. And that's not just when we're with each other, but also in my behaviour and everything that I do in life. I always imagine that if she's watching, then, am I setting a good example? That's my main thing. So spending time with Fabienne, who's 7 now, her main review at a school parents' evening is always that she's kind. So touch wood, we're succeeding there. Other than that, if we take this week, for example, this morning I've been for a run. I'm doing HIIT training or functional fitness tomorrow morning at 6:30 in the park in the rain. I do yoga 3 or 4 times a week. I hit the golf ball if I can once a week, which I really enjoy. And I like to walk every day with my dog Lola. Goodness me, that's it depends which friend you ask, but I would say funny, generous, and focused.